Yo, YouTube, what is good, bruv gang, what is good, and we are back with another video. As we all know, 2023 so far has been another insane year for JRPGs with so many incredible games dropping. Seeing as we are past the first quarter of the gaming year and midway through the second with so many more big hitters still to come, I thought this would be a perfect time to share with you guys some of my favourite JRPG releases so far and give you guys my honest spoiler-free thoughts. So stay tuned as I give you guys 5 JRPGs I've loved so far in 2023. One Piece Odyssey. From its initial announcement, One Piece Odyssey was the game I had on my release radar. The turn-based combat and the game being based around One Piece immediately caught my attention. One Piece has always been known in the anime community to be an anime of conflicting interests. People will always see the fact that the show is 1000 episodes plus and still running. But nonetheless, I'm a big lover of One Piece, from the vast landscape of the world to the charming characters and the beautiful well-written backstories of each character. That's one thing that's always drew me in with One Piece. So for me personally, anime games are always hit and miss, and I only really put all my chips to the table when I fully know that I'm potentially going to enjoy the game. As I mentioned, in the initial announcement of One Piece Odyssey, the one thing that immediately caught my attention was the turn-based combat. Turn-based combat is easily my favourite type of combat, and when executed well can be lots of fun. So the last turn-based anime JRPG I played was Fairy Tail, which dropped back in 2020. The game was okay in my opinion, but was not enough to make me recommend it. Personally, when it comes to anime games, I'm usually on the fence, but as mentioned, One Piece Odyssey from the jump caught my attention. From the gameplay trailers shown, and also the news that Bandai Namco had been spending years working on the game to make it the best they possibly could, was one thing that really got me excited. So Bandai Namco dropped a demo a week before release, and when I first booted up the game, the stunning visuals and vibrant colours immediately caught my attention. The game just had that One Piece charm. It felt like I'd been dropped right into the anime. That sense of exploration and journey had me hooked from the jump and made me want to see what the story and the game had to offer. The one thing I love most about One Piece Odyssey is the turn-based combat. It's not overly difficult to understand, and I feel Bandai Namco did an amazing job nailing down the combat, not making it too overwhelming with different systems, meaning even fans of the show who just want to experience a new One Piece game and are not necessarily fans of turn-based combat could easily pick it up and understand it very easily, making the game super accessible to casual and veteran fans alike. Personally, I think the one thing that also made combat stand out was the gorgeous battle animations. Zoro is personally my favourite One Piece character, but seeing him execute moves like Free Sword style or an onigiri so fluidly with no frame drops was incredible to see. I played the game on PC, so that definitely made my experience even better. The dungeons, mini puzzles and overall exploration of the game were executed incredibly throughout this game. I love the switching of party members in dungeons to use their unique abilities to traverse around the dungeon, like using Luffy's long arms to reach high up places to get treasure or to advance through the dungeon. Personally, for me, One Piece is a game that far exceeded my expectations. Being a fan of the show, I can say this is easily the best game that has been made for the One Piece franchise, and a game that I hold in high regard, being a sleeper for me this year. So in my honest opinion, I feel more people need to experience One Piece Odyssey. Even if you aren't a fan of the show but are a fan of JRPGs, this game just hits all the right notes. The game is even set to get DLC, and I feel this is a perfect game to dive into this year if you haven't already, and a game I can't recommend enough. Fire Emblem Engage. When Fire Emblem Engage was announced back at the September Nintendo Direct in 2022, my hype levels went through the roof. I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan and immediately rushed and pre-ordered the game's special edition. From the moment I saw so many protagonists from previous Fire Emblem entries, I lost it. Seeing some of my favourite characters like Roy, Marth and Ike brought to life in beautiful modern day graphics was amazing to me. Fire Emblem Engage, gameplay and design wise, was a step up in my opinion from Fire Emblem Three Houses, which was the first entry to be released on the Switch and a game I personally loved. I felt the vibrant colours and designs of the characters were so much better this time around. I felt the gameplay was improved so much, and the one thing that I loved the most was the battle animations. They were so slick and well done, and as mentioned, seeing some of my favourite characters perform various different attacks was insane. The one thing that I absolutely loved was the use of bond rings in the game. I thought having older characters being brought back in the form of bond rings was such a great touch. Not taken away from the newer characters in the game, they felt like a nice cross between new and old. While the story, not being anything groundbreaking, is a story that I enjoyed, it got to the point and never dragged on and knew exactly what it wanted to be. Now, regarding combat, it's something I never ever got tired of, and again, being down to the amazing design of the game, maps felt a lot better to play through this time around as opposed to Three Houses, which felt a bit dull and repetitive at times. While I have played through the DLC, and again, not being anything to write home about, but still, the one thing that I love so much about Engage is the gameplay experience, and a lot of the time with Fire Emblem is something I always look for the most, and I can honestly say that Fire Emblem Engage is the most fun I've had in a Fire Emblem game. Fire Emblem's biggest thing this time around was accessibility, being able to appeal to newer fans of this series without making them feel insanely overwhelmed. I feel they absolutely nailed this with Engage. It's a game I definitely want to see more DLC for down the line just so I have an excuse to play. So for me personally, so far in 2023, Fire Emblem Engage is easily up there as one of my favourite games to come out and 100% lived up to my personal expectations. Like a Dragon Ishin. Like a Dragon Ishin is a game I knew I was purchasing on day one from the moment I saw the trailers. The game being set in Edo, Japan, which is one of my favourite periods in history, was of great interest to me. Personally, I love games with an Edo, Japan aesthetic, and the game being under the Yakuza umbrella was enough to have me hooked. Like a Dragon Ishin, right from the word go, just like previous entries in the Yakuza series, will have you glued to your screen. Ryuga Gotoku does such an amazing job spin-off or mainline game by making the worlds and stories so interesting. It honestly makes you feel like you're watching a TV show at times. The combat in Like a Dragon Ishin was one thing from the gameplay trailers and the combat demo I played before launch that grabbed my attention. The ability to change from bare hand brawler, very reminiscent of course of other Yakuza mainline titles, to being able to switch to using a sword to a gun, then to using a gun and a sword, the combination of various different styles made combat so fluid and fun and was something I knew I would enjoy when I got to play the main game. The one thing that I love about Like a Dragon Ishin is the world. The world feels so alive and makes you feel like you really are in the Edo period. The aesthetic, as I mentioned, of Edo, Japan is something that I've always found so interesting. Getting to interact with townsfolk, having so many shops and various different mini games and super engaging side stories is enough to have you distracted from doing the main story despite how amazing it is. So for me personally, Like a Dragon Ishin is a game that I still haven't finished yet, but I'm having a blast with so far. So far, it's a game that I 100% had to include on this list, and this game has really made a big impression on me. If you are a newer fan of the Yakuza series, I can't recommend it enough. Octopath Traveler 2. Octopath Traveler 2 is a game I've probably talked to death about on this channel, but a game I never ever get tired of talking about. So for me, Octopath Traveler 2 was an insane step up from the first game. The travelers felt more alive and more in tune with each other's stories this time around, and I didn't feel like they were nonsensical travelling party members. The HD 2D art style is one thing I always mention when I talk about Octopath Traveler 2. I honestly can't get over how beautiful it looks and the fact you're able to play through it. Sometimes I just sit there and take endless screenshots because I'm so in awe of how beautiful the game is. I felt the stories of each of the travelers were so much better than the first game, my personal favourites being Hikari, Frone, Oswald, Particio and Temenos, all having motives and personal growth throughout their journeys and all with a common end goal in mind. The voice acting was one thing I highly praised about Octopath Traveler 2. It never ever felt dull, making every scene and every chapter feel so alive. From emotional moments to high pressure situations, the voice work on this game was incredibly done, making the stories and characters feel that much more believable. Octopath Traveler 2 never strayed too far away from what made the first game good, but made small adjustments to combat and exploration, which I thought were executed so well throughout the game. Exploration was a big thing for me, and the freedom of exploration is always what made me love Octopath 2. Being able to not follow the main story for a few hours to level up if I wanted, but not by nonsensically grinding, but by discovering hidden places like dungeons and getting special rewards for my exploring, I actually, and true to the namesake, felt like a traveller. Octopath Traveler 2 is a game I can't talk about enough and was well and truly worth the wait, and for me, being at the moment a game that I easily can put in my top 5 listed games to come out in 2023, and is a game I feel everyone needs to experience. Xenoblade Chronicles Future Redeemed. Now I know Future Redeemed is classed as DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but for me, the DLC felt like its own unique experience and its own standalone game. The hype and anticipation for all Xenoblade Chronicles fans this year was seeing the final wave of DLC being announced, concluding the amazing Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy. Future Redeemed didn't disappoint in any way at all. The DLC for me completely lived up to expectations. This felt like a perfect wrap up to the Xenoblade Chronicles series. The one thing I never thought is that even with this being the conclusion of the series, they couldn't add more characters that I would love, and by God did Monolith Soft do that and then some. So for me, the characters in the DLC were amazing. I felt an immediate attachment to Matthew, the protagonist. Not to say that I don't love Noah from the main game, but Matthew just felt like a step up, and I personally resonated with his character more in what was essentially a 20-hour DLC. I felt the writing was to the point and very snappy, but even in a 20-hour DLC, you didn't lose out on that important character development. For me personally, seeing fan favourites such as Shulk and Rex just felt so rewarding, because you know you've been on such a long and extensive journey with each character. This just felt like the ultimate reward for playing through the games. The gameplay in Future Redeemed was another thing I praised highly. They didn't stray too far away from the formula of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, with this of course being DLC for the main game. It struck a nice balance, adding new mechanics and features that made the DLC actually feel like its own game. One thing that all Xenoblade Chronicles fans love is exploration. The worlds are always so vast, and the one thing that I praised heavily was the exploration. The exploration was cleverly executed throughout Future Redeemed, making it so that you could go well over that 20-hour mark in terms of finishing the story. Having skills to add to party members scattered around the map made exploration so much more fun. With the added skill sets of each of the new characters, exploration never felt like a needless chore, and it's something I really loved. even after finishing the DLC, it's something I went back to and just did like I would with any other Xenoblade game. For me personally, I was always excited to see the conclusion to such a great series, and Monolith Soft did not disappoint at all. They actually made the DLC feel like its own game. While you of course can't jump into future redeemed DLC, the Xenoblade Chronicles series as a whole is something I feel newer fans of the series need to jump into, and it's easily for me my favourite game I played so far in 2023. So that'll do it for this video guys. I really appreciate you guys for watching. I'd love to know down below in the comments some of the JRPGs you love so far in 2023, and even let me know what JRPGs you are looking forward to playing throughout the remainder of this year. So please like, sub, share if you're new, hit that notification bell so you get notified of my videos first, and I hope I can be you guys' #1 source for all JRPG news. So from me too, this has been your bruv, the big bruv, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next video. I'm out. Peace.